Welcome to the Wellhouse Exorcism. I'm PJ.
I'm Shanna.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Ray.
Welcome back to our formerly haunted house. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming. People are afraid to be here sometimes. And Halloween just happened, so I get it.
Fred sighting. We had a Fred sighting.
What?
Yep.
Did have a friend say God. Would you put the food away, Ray?
It's not
Oh,
me.
if you
It's
hear a
ghost.
disembodied voice or
It's Lola
strange
playing
sounds,
with Legos. Lola's literally playing with Legos right now. I cannot make that up.
so that is our pug.
She's back.
So she will be the disembodied voice or crazy
Heavy
sounds
breathing.
and heavy breathing that you hear
In the background,
Yep,
yeah.
that's our pug. Yes.
She's like, is this food? No, Lola, that's Legos. We're in Owen's bedroom / basement, and he has this ridiculously huge Lego set. What is it? What are you guys building down here?
It's the definitive version of the Millennium Falcon. I think it's like 8,000 pieces.
Quite large.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that's Bag Tooth she was rifling at. All right, anyway, we are back because we have finished our Wellhouse Exorcism series of our house proper. We finished with the exorcism and the blessings on Eli, and knock on wood, the house has been fine since 2018.
4 years.
4 years clean, guys.
Now going back, Fred sighting.
Yes.
Yes, we mentioned him in passing last
I think
time,
it was the
right?
Yes.
first episode, actually, we mentioned him.
With you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Lola and I heard Fred the one time we were out for a walk.
Yes.
So tell me.
I did not see Fred, but it was Dan after recording our Sniper Elite episode. He was walking out to his car, and there was Fred just walking down the sidewalk. Apparently, he'll tell his story next time he's on the pod.
Wait, so it was physical. This wasn't usually you hear Fred.
Or you see him running, from what I understand.
Yeah,
It's like a
but-
whoosh.
Yeah, he said I saw Fred.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that episode.
Mm-hmm.
Just
I'm
saying.
excited.
That was
Yeah.
the entire story.
Okay,
it.
that's a teaser.
That was it, yeah.
That's just a
It'll
teaser.
be a very short podcast.
I mean,
where
all Fred sightings are short. There's not much content to
true.
Fred sightings.
you hear the
He
jingle.
just zips through.
But
when you
Dan's
hear a
episode-
jingle.
There and gone.
Yep.
Dan's episode will be good, though, because we did a lot of crap with ghosts.
Oh, yeah, I know.
We did a lot of stuff. So it could be a long episode.
Ooh, I get to sit on that and make comments about you guys. I'm so excited. I was only a part of one thing, and I don't think Dan was a part of the cemetery adventure that we went on. He wasn't there for that,
I don't
was he?
think so.
No. But Jim was, yeah. That was fun because the cop showed up.
Yep.
That always makes it fun.
It does.
Well, a bunch of idiot teenagers are in a cemetery on Halloween night. Cops are definitely going to visit.
Yep.
Because they had heard, people were there knocking down gravestones, and they thought that was us. And we're like, no, we're just here because we're actual nerds. And so there's Jim showing pictures.
The cop was like, oh.
Oh, it's you. Okay, yeah, you can just go. Please just leave. Oh, yes, the memories.
Yeah.
That was the one time I hung out with you people. Never again.
There really aren't clear-cut hours for a cemetery, right?
No.
Everybody can go
Whenever you want.
whenever you want.
Yeah,
I
so-
think
Unless
it's
there's a
kind of
gate.
fishy if you go in the middle of the night, though.
It is.
You know?
Especially a pack of teenagers.
Yeah.
A
I mean,
pack of
I don't
teenagers?
know.
We were a pack.
We were wild and
That
rabid.
being said, I mean, maybe your only time off is during the graveyard shift.
Oh.
Wow.
He went there.
And this is Ray's last time. No, they've heard worse in terms of dad jokes for PJ.
It's November the 1st, which means October is October.
Oh, wow, that is pretty good.
It's pretty bad.
Not. He sent that to me today because he sends me a dad joke every day, and I share it to my 8th graders, and they go, wow. I get it, but wow. And I go, and I'm like, yeah, I'm married to that. And one student goes, yeah, you chose that? And I'm like, eh.
Yeah, serious. I say that to Ray all the time. I'm like, you know what? You may call me crazy, but you married me. You chose to marry me, so I don't know what you're saying.
Every day is just one more day she chooses.
No, the last podcast, remember I told you we almost made it to 13 years. Almost. He was just full of the dad jokes on our last podcast. And I was like, please stop. And I was also sick, so it made it worse. I had this really raspy, throaty voice. And I'm like, I can't even pay attention right now. And here you are. All right. So anyway, we are here since we finished our Wellhouse exorcism story proper. We did our 3 different parts, and you guys had your story. We thought we'd kind of segue into a new section for our podcast, which is going to be investigating, at this point, haunted objects and haunted locations, because that seems to be our house, like locations. We don't know what did you ever have like anything done in your house to see like why you would have those issues?
No, we really haven't. I mean, like, we, had that supposed history about the house, and we did have that
Laura
spring that we talked about. What?
Oh, about this, our house? Or
Our
this?
house.
Yeah.
I mean, you did do some research.
Right.
Your...
So, we knew some of the people who had, like, lived there and gone through, and, like, the divorces that had happened, and, like, the mysterious who knows what, and all of that. But
Vacuuming, middle of the night.
Right. But there's nothing definitive that I think we ever found.
Because we had done, like, some research, too. We talked to locals around but our house. But when we had the exorcist come, they knew so much about our house that we had never known.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, because obviously we're in the basement right now. Like, this entire area that we're sitting in is the haunted location. This is, like, where the portal was opened. And so I was just wondering if you knew, like, if there was something about your house.
Yeah, no, nothing that I know of, and nothing that turned up in the research. Although I will say, with you two being teachers, and since I have gone through some of the research in my house, like going to the courthouse, and Ray went with me, and like we went through. And for all of our listeners,
texts.
yes, I will say, all you need basically is like your information from when you bought your house, like your parcel number or whatever, and then you can go to your courthouse and they'll show you this huge book. I mean, it's like 18 inches tall, and it's just absolutely huge, like a legal size pad, basically. Jeez. But it's like 6 inches thick. And then you go through and you find your mortgage, your deed. That
All I
was drawn
hear,
out.
all I hear is Lola right now in the background, and
Sorry,
I can't pay attention to
I
courthouse
should have left
proceedings.
her at home. But yes, but then
Is she dying over there?
No, she's actually sleeping.
Of course, that's the sleeping noise. Yeah,
that's a sleeping
this
sound.
is why pugs are just so
Perfectly content.
okay.
Extra.
It's concerning. It sounds like she's having like an asthma attack while she's sleeping, and that's
Nope,
just
she's passed out. She's all good.
oh, that's a snore right there.
Yeah, it's a snore. She snores like an 80-year-old man.
She's very bored about our houses.
Yes.
Okay.
But anyway, so yeah, you go to the courthouse, they take you to this book, and it takes you to another number, which takes you to the previous owner. And then you look at that deed, and that takes you to the previous owner, and all the way back and back and back. And it's a really, it took us hours.
That seems very tedious.
It was tedious.
It was tedious. And it's hard to read the handwriting.
Oh, yeah. At
Like,
some
if
point, there's no typewriter.
I understand my handwriting can be kind of hard to read. This is impossible.
Well, and then it also there was a point where there was no deed, there was a will. So we had to go look at the will and like try and decipher that. And then, so like there is some level of subjectivity because you're like, I think we're talking about this parcel, and that kind of thing. Because, it started out as a much larger parcel and it gets down. And then you're down to a third of an acre, which is what our house is on. So it was a really interesting process, but I would highly recommend that you guys do it. It was
I feel like
fun.
I should just pay someone to do that.
You can pay me. I'll do
Yeah,
it.
I don't like, you know me, I don't like tedious tasks. So I know you do. The thought of sitting there for hours, like, I'm good.
That's right up my alley.
Dude, even in college, when I had to
You
use a
could have done
microfiche,
title searching. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
microfishing was like the worst thing in college. I am so glad
You don't like that?
that I can just go on Google Scholar. I am so
I just
lazy.
had to do that for someone for work, and I was so excited, and I was like, "Oh, it's a throwback," and I was so
it's a
happy.
throwback.
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
So
The English major here. Yeah, I'm good. There are easier ways to get my information.
I see. So somebody doesn't want to meet Shakespeare, right? They want to meet somebody
No,
more
Shakespeare
local.
is a hoax. I am Team Christopher Marlowe. Thank you for asking. It's the whole conversation I could totally have and not talk about anything haunted right now.
This is a separate podcast
It
we're going to
is.
have to make.
We've gone off track.
We have indeed.
Listen,
Hey,
it's important.
you know what though? Shakespeare or Marlowe or whoever wrote it did incorporate ghosts into the text. So how's that for a transition?
Look at that.
Shakespeare only did that because he wanted to get the interest and love of the current king. That's why he wrote Macbeth.
I can't blame him.
The king of the time period, he wanted him to be his patron, so he made Macbeth to make it all spooky and such. Yeah, it was just to...
Plus, it's just darn good.
Well, it's the shortest, therefore it's the best.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
English teacher, it's the shortest, therefore it's the best. Shakespeare stole everything he wrote. Moving on. You cannot change my mind. He is a plagiarist, bard. Anyway, let's go ahead and discuss, because I was asking about the titles in the haunted areas, because our first segue into a new part of our series is going to be not only a haunted item, but possibly a haunted location, which is kind of what I'm more interested in, is that discussion of where they found this object, okay? So we are doing the
Crone of the Catskills.
the Crone of the Catskills.
Ooh, that was so much better than yours. Anyway.
I didn't know it was a competition.
It's always a competition.
We're siblings. Get to the now.
I thought it was just a friendly podcast about haunted stuff. Like
Is that
literally
friendly? Is that
I don't
friendly? We're survivors.
Not to the people in the
Okay.
in the story, as it were.
I have a question. Who is the resident of this table of four? Who's the resident expert of the Crone of the Catskills?
That would be me.
Okay.
Because I was actually present on the Reddit page when the person first posted
No
about this.
way.
Say
When it was all going down.
Yeah, like my name, my username is in the comments, talking to this
So you
guy.
responded to his
Oh
inquiry?
yeah, definitely.
All right, you gotta kick this
I
off.
don't remember what I
Oh,
said.
do you remember
Probably,
were you at the very
run.
least nice?
From personal
Because
experience,
yeah.
run.
Okay, one at a time here, folks. We are excited.
PJ's like, cool.
I know this
well, the
guy.
cool thing is that the Catskills really is only about a couple of hours away
Yeah,
from
it's not
us.
far at all.
It's not
That's
far
also
from
why we
us.
chose it, because it's so local for
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Hop, skip, and a jump.
I think
I
it's
mean, I
more
wouldn't
than
call
that.
it that, but
It's a couple
Basically.
jumps at least.
But when
It's
it's
a
in the
couple
car
of
and
times.
ride.
yeah. At least 4 exits.
Not even a turnpike.
So, how did you come across this in the first place, PJ?
Like we said, the first episode of the podcast, I'm always looking for spooky stuff, things like that. So I was a subscriber to the subreddit Paranormal, and this guy posts in there that they were out hiking in the Catskill Mountains, he and his buddy.
In New
And-
York.
In New York, yep. That's where the mountains are, and he even says right outside this one little park, national
Which
park.
they have omitted for privacy in our edition here.
Oh,
No, it's in there.
Okay,
In the actual Reddit post.
in the Reddit post, yes.
Yeah.
But moving on.
Continuing.
We have a conglomeration of news stories.
I did a
and
lot
things
of
like that.
research here.
Yes.
But not on a microfiche.
I know that would have driven you crazy.
Yeah.
That would be another podcast in and of itself.
Oh, it will be.
The horrors of microphone.
I know, and it's
Anything
still, and the cons are
pre-modern.
still.
2007 just bite me in the butt. Continue.
And we'll get into more detail of it, but this guy said he and his buddy were hiking in the mountains. They went pretty far off trail, just exploring, found a cave. And in the cave was this wooden carved statue with a noose around its neck. The statue's a foot tall, maybe. Had a noose around its neck and 3 nails driven into each eye.
And the statue looks pretty old. The nails are kind of yucky, but the noose was almost brand new.
Yeah, that looks
I just want to
fresh.
put that out because that's something they had mentioned in the...
And it's fairly crudely carved. This is not fine art. I mean, it's better than I could do.
It's
I'll say
fine art
that.
compared to what I
I
did.
know. I could have gotten the nail situation right.
No, I
I
couldn't.
mean, I'm pretty handy.
I can do the noose. Ironically, I know how to do that. I don't want to talk about it.
But you're right, though. The noose, it's unblemished. It's not stained. It's
Definitely,
clean.
I would say the rope you would use for hanging up clothes to a clothesline. It looks kind of like that.
Sort of between that and a twine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say
Almost.
closer to twine because it's thin,
It's a little bit thicker. Let me
This
look-
doll's only
Impressed that you
yay
guys
tall.
actually
This
paid attention
I
to,
think this
the
is more
quality
like
of the-
clothesline right here.
But if it's only like a Barbie sized
Would you
thing,
back off? Give me this.
No, we're investigating.
I have
this.
pictures.
We're not going to give you crap. You have to earn it.
But it is
I
interesting.
did all the research.
And I do wish, though, that the people who have this Crone would like define it a little bit more, just to say these are the dimensions and these are the, this is what it's made of, and so probably like this twine wasn't made until whatever 1999 or whatever.
Ooh, that's a good point.
It'd be really interesting to do this as like
it.
a scientific exploration.
Well, they only and that's something we'll get into as we talk more about it. Is they don't even know like what the heck this thing is.
Well,
Yeah.
It's not a voodoo doll. It's not
It has like a voodoo quality.
you could probably say the same thing about the nails too. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
depending on how they were machined or whatever, will tell you.
Oh yeah, like the style of nails and how they're made for sure.
Yes. I'm sure if somebody actually studied, oh boy, there's Lola.
Get down out of here.
So
Go away, dog.
So anyways, one of them, the guy, the poster's friend, took it home. For whatever reason, thought it'd be a good idea to take this creepy statue home.
Can I discuss really quick before it goes home where they found it? Because that to me is what I think is
we
interesting.
need to talk about that.
So when PJ and I were talking about like what we wanted to do first with you guys, we had a couple different ideas, and I had done some research because we read a lot about this stuff. It's just interesting for us, and I do a lot of horror and fantasy during October. And so he had mentioned the Catskills Crone, and I had said, well, let's look at some other ideas. But when I was doing the research for this, I realized that if you look at the one picture that I sent you guys right here, where they found it, and of course our podcasters can't see that, they found it in a cave area. And later in the Reddit thread, he explains like what it looked like, because there were some very specific questions. But they knew that the place they were in was a location where a lot of kids, teens, and witches would go and do like things. There were seances, witchcraft, spells, whatever you want to name it. This is an area where they were doing that kind of stuff. So these kids are out in an area where dabbling is happening. We know for a fact for us at our house that right now in our basement, for example, like this is where people were doing spells beside the well, and that's why our house was, demonically possessed because of the location of where we are, by the water. So knowing that they're doing stuff out here that's shady, why would you take it home? Because the location itself has to be in some way like a portal, or it has to be like demonically possessed, or there has to be something spiritual and unsavory, I guess.
I mean, I'll chime in there just because I'm of the age group where in the 80s there was the satanic panic.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Geraldo.
Oh, yeah, you're excited, I know.
And like all the talk show hosts were all about the satanic panic and playing records backwards. And like people of our age kind of looked at it and still look at it as a joke, which, I mean, really it was.
It was, yeah.
It just, like, no crime ever has been proven to be like a satanic ritual. And so maybe, all I'm saying is that maybe, like, if I'm of that age group, that would be my mentality. You hear my dog breathing.
Well,
yeah, super creepy.
Yeah, and just, there's so...
She's like falling asleep on the table right now.
I know.
There's just countless people who just, even without the satanic panic stuff, like, you don't believe this, And
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, here's a stupid statue some idiot made, let's
Well,
take
I
it
think
home,
when
go
you have-
hurdy-dur-dur, and,
When you're like two dudes
mean-
hanging out, like I'm not sure if it's, I'm a girl, so I don't know, but is there like some kind of like manly competition? Maybe he wanted to prove that he wasn't scared of the thing.
Among some guy groups, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't subscribe to that.
Me
No,
either,
no,
no.
I never did, but I know
Generally
people
don't
who...
take stuff that's not mine. Because that's stealing
Oh, you know what I should have brought over,
and somewhat wrong.
though. So
Scary in the
And
case
scary,
of
especially when it looks like that with
this.
nails in the
Nails in
eyes.
his eyes.
Well, and see, Ray says that, but when we were in Ireland, I was we were walking through a cemetery in the village of Kells, and I found this little pebble, and the pebble, to me, looks like it has, like, a little face on it. And I have it. I took it home
But
with
I
me.
could argue that pebbles were not deliberately crafted. This crone was deliberately crafted.
True.
You
But
know,
that could have
I'm
been
just
carved.
like, I'm like, Laura wants a piece of nature. Let her have it.
Do you call the pedal Dwayne The Rock Johnson?
Well, no, it's Dwayne the O-Rock Johnson, because it's Irish.
Dwayne of the Rock.
Dwayne of the Rock. But anyway, so...
GameZoBoard@gmail.com.
All I'm saying is that, I mean, obviously, I don't think that this pebble was haunted. It has not negatively impacted me in any way whatsoever that I know of. But, like, I totally took a pebble out of a Irish cemetery that looks like it has a face
That's a
carved
little
onto
different.
it.
I would let you've taken bark from like the ground, and I think that's okay. I think when it's an effigy, I think there's a problem there.
Maybe.
I would not touch it.
Especially if there's a noose around its neck and
Yeah.
there are nails in its eyes.
I would probably hesitate at that
If
myself.
if it's a bone or a skull, I'm going to be like, you know what? Let's take a beat and rethink this one.
But even as somebody who's
I
like
don't
been
think you
in a
should get
house
home. The answer is no.
that I think has been haunted, like I don't know that I would see something like that and think, oh well, that must be like an evil effigy. I'm not saying I would take it home, but
I would
it's
think
just,
it's an evil. I'm sorry.
Did you see the pictures though?
Did you?
I mean,
did you see this stuff?
It has
I would
nails in
yes,
the eyes.
but I would think it's
She
somebody.
has nails. I should say she, because it's a crone, right?
Yeah, it's Crone. Yeah.
But it is a
but-
piece of wood.
but it is a
So
piece
I'd
of
call-
wood.
You could call it
Yeah.
too.
Oh.
It might be more appropriate technically. But yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, like if I saw something like that in this rando cave, I'd be like, huh, there's like some teenagers playing a prank. Aren't they funny?
I
Like,
might
you
think
know-
that, but I still wouldn't take it.
You know, I could see myself though, like finding this thing, taking a ton of pictures of it, and then like a week later being like, "Man, I kind of wish I had that." You know?
Well,
Yes!
but like what I find interesting, you mentioned like the thread and people talking, where you are somewhere in there, PJ. Again, you find this effigy, noose around its neck, nails in its eyes, and then it's in an area that must have some kind of like hauntedness, some kind of like demonic presence because of the
Right.
witchcraft.
Right,
And then
exactly.
They ask questions like, was there anything like around it that would make you think there's hair on it? Because usually these kinds of things are going to have like saliva or
Right.
hair or nails. And so it says, Danny went into detail on what else they found in the cave near the statue. Quote, I didn't see any jewelry or pictures or anything by the statue, but there were a lot of leaves covering everything. There was some broken glass in a cup near the fire. There's a cup? There was a fire near it? And then it says, my friend says he thinks there might have been some hair on it, but he brushed it off without thinking about it. Again, hair, nails, like those are connected to like some kind of magic. You know, why would you take this? Why? Usually the hair means like it's an intended target, right? Like you're gonna hurt whoever that person is because you got part of their body doing DNA there. So
Yeah, one of the theories is it's a pagan victim doll, which by my half-assed internet research is just that it's like their version of a voodoo doll, and the hair would fit into that then for
Yeah.
sure.
But let's take it home. So I feel like at this point we probably should read the opening Reddit discussion post that just so people
Danny's
have an idea.
post.
Yeah, Danny's initial post. So
Do we want to do the actual one or the one cited from that website there?
what's up to you? Do you have the original?
You have it in there.
Where?
It's in that paper.
The entire thing or just
Yeah, the whole thing's in there, and then the follow-up one too.
Well, do you want to read it?
Sure.
Because you're a man, you could be Danny.
I think it's the third
Listen, I got a lot of research.
or third like grouping.
Last week,
articles.
yeah. So a strange cave here. So it goes here, it's here, and then it continues. Okay, here you go. So to our readers, this is a website that it is not. I printed narrow, so I can't see it. But it was called like a strange carving hidden in the Catskills cave, and it is. I mean, it's all from this really awesome website.
We can link straight to the Reddit page too and post it on the website.
Here my paper is flipping. The Crone of the Catskills. The cursed carving brings visits from a terrifying paranormal entity. And it's actually from Greg Newkirk, so the guy who owns it
He's
now.
the
Yeah, he owns the paranormal...
museum guy.
Yeah,
That's what I called him the whole time I was reading
yeah.
this.
The cool guy?
Museum guy. Is
Museum
what I
guy.
call
I like
it.
that, yes.
Museum guy and wife.
Museum
Yeah.
Greg.
Museum wife.
Yeah, Museum Greg. Museum Dana.
Dana. Greg and Dana. They sound like, I don't know, neighbors.
Neighbors, yeah.
Yeah.
Who have lots of haunted objects. They sound
I
like
know.
the new people, like in The Conjuring.
The Warrens.
The Warrens, yeah. They
Yeah.
have like their own little thing.
In this case, well, I don't know if she has the same name, but the
She
Newkirks-
doesn't have the same
It's
last
Newkirk
name.
and I don't remember what her
Matthews.
last name is.
Matthews. Yeah.
That sounds like a law firm.
Newkirk and Matthews.
Call them for all your
Esquire.
spiritual needs.
Have you had damage done by a poltergeist?
Yeah, and the recent hauntings. Did someone bring an effigy home with nails in its eyes? If so, please contact us. You maybe afford compensation. Sorry.
Cool
anyway.
times.
Go ahead, PJ.
Oh, goodness. All right, so this is Danny's post from Reddit. Last weekend, my friend and I went hiking in the Catskills near Sundown Forest, for what it's worth, and I found this really creepy statue while effing around in some caves. It has nails in its eyes and a noose around its neck. It looks like it might be old. I don't think it's been here very long, but it's weird because this cave was way off the trail. Someone had a fire in there not too long ago. The statue really wigged me out, but my buddy decided to take it home with him, even though I told him not to. Everyone says there's devil worshippers that come out here to sacrifice animals and do their spells and stuff, so I didn't want anything to do with this thing. A couple days later, my friend calls me and tells me that he thinks the statue is haunted, because it keeps moving from its spot, and he keeps smelling weird stuff. Says he can't sleep at night because of a banging noise keeps waking him up. Now, last night, someone knocked on his door, but no one was there when he opened it. And he's super weirded out. He thinks that he has a ghost because of the statue. It must just be a coincidence, but I think he's actually scared. Before we go set this thing on fire, I wanted to see if anyone knows what it is. Anyone ever seen something like this or heard of a statue causing ghosts? Over the next several hours, the post received dozens of responses, each of them offering different pieces of advice. Some believed that the carving had its roots in voodoo, others thought it was the work of a satanic cult, and some believed that the creepy statue was placed in the woods specifically to scare errant hikers, and apparently it was doing its job really well. Some posters even offered to purchase the idol, while others offered insults. Alright, so then there was so that last little bit was just from this article. But there's a follow-up to that first post where he said, my friend showed up here at like 11:30 p.m. He's out of his mind scared. Never seen him like this before. I'm going to do my best to remember everything. But he told me, because everything he just told me, because it was a lot. But long story short, he's sleeping over because something is in his house.
It sounds so familiar. You know, like leaving your house, right, Ray? Because crazy things are happening. I feel a connection to this. I really do. Especially with the things that this poor guy was like dealing with in his house. No, he took it home himself. It's his fault.
Mm-hmm. Poor idiot.
Poor idiot, yeah.
You would be one of the mean people, wouldn't you? On the Reddit post.
I don't know what you're talking
probably
about. I'm
would
very
be.
supportive
You would
of him.
have been. You would have been a...
Okay, let's be honest. A, yes, I probably would have considered taking this thing home. But B, if I did, I wouldn't be all like,
you wouldn't go on the internet being
poor
like,
me, poor me. It's like,
look what I
you
did
took
to
it
myself.
home.
Help me.
Yeah.
Although,
Reddit, help me.
Yeah.
the guy is posting on behalf of his friend. His friend
That
is not
is true.
posting for help.
That is true. So I give him that. But at the same time, it's like, you know what?
Don't touch things.
Don't touch things. If you
I
don't want
know.
to deal with repercussions, you don't want to deal with repercussions.
What are you, a parent?
Don't play with the Ouija
Wait, you're
board.
gonna slap your hand and say, no, don't touch that.
Right. Anyway, so yeah, I am apparently the mean
That's what we
girl.
heard from this. Your parent gonna slap your hand.
Anyway,
This is a great podcast.
does this mean I'm mean spice?
I mean...
I think you're sporty.
Oh,
You're quite spicy too. I don't know.
I'm not very athletic though. Anyway, sorry. How are you gonna
What
transition?
just happened?
We have some strong opinions.
Yes,
So
Okay.
his friend sleeps over because bad things are happening.
but yes, which I agree with you, and I will say whether you brought this on yourself or not. Get the hell out.
Yeah.
If you are scared, if you are not sure, if you even think that you are in danger, get the hell out. Trust your gut. Just get out. Go to a friend's house. Go to a parent's house. Go wherever you need to go to feel safe. You have to do that.
You can sleep on a
have to-
floor or a couch.
You're right. Even if you did this to yourself, I don't care. No one should care. Like, yes, I am being a little bit mean girly right now, but ultimately, your safety and your mental well-being is more important than anything.
And your dog.
Or
And
any
your dog,
judgment.
yeah, which is important for
Absolutely.
this next part.
Take your dog with you, as this guy did. But yes, get out, be safe, be well, and, let the haters hate. Let us mean girls have our fun. That's fine, too. Anyway, I'll
Well, at
end
that
there.
point, you'll know that you made a mistake, so you deserve what's coming.
I mean, but you start to make changes. That's okay, too. We evolve. That's the point of learning things, is to evolve and become better.
That's right.
Hey, we all had to learn how to
But
read.
I do think that is hard to capture, or to really observe about yourself, like that sort of insight until like, especially in the thick of it. I think you just want to live. You know?
Oh yeah.
Like I don't know if like
Trust your gut. Trust your gut is what we're saying. Yeah.
That I would like be like, you know what, lesson learned sort of situation. You know,
Figure that out later.
This is a growing opportunity. Like I would have been like, I'd probably, I don't know. Well, first off, I don't know if I would do it myself, but I could see myself turning to something, you know, where I can maintain a sense of anonymity to be
like a Reddit where you're creating a fake profile or whatever.
It's fake profile.
Yep.
Yeah.
It doesn't lead back to them, and I get it. Like, and again, that's okay because ultimately, did what's right for them, what's right for their dog, and all of those things. And should they have taken in the first place? Probably not. Would I? Probably. So could I have been that idiot?
I would not have let you. I would have been that
Sure.
friend. I would be like, you will find your own ride on a broomstick. I mean, like...
But that's my point. You know, like, yeah, okay. Like, we can, on one, you know, the left hand might judge you, but the right hand is like, yeah, but I am you. So...
Don't get philosophical.
I've always been.
That's my PhD. All right.
That's the thing. Don't let other people define you and your decisions. I'm going to end there. Please continue because this is very fascinating.
Okay. We found the statue on Sunday, and like I said, I told him not to take it because it gave me bad vibes, but he took it anyway. He's been an atheist as long as I've known him, so when he told me that something was going on, I thought he was just effing with me because I know what it's... because I know I like to watch paranormal shows. He always made fun of me for it. I think the poster meant he knows I like to watch paranormal shows.
Proofread your stuff, yo. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to type it on
Well,
Reddit,
this guy and his buddy are freaking
a little
out.
nervous,
Yeah.
yes. English teacher, proofread.
It started out just as knocking and banging, but he said that by Wednesday, he started waking up in the middle of the night feeling like someone was watching him. This kept happening throughout the week, and every time he'd wake up, he could smell a really strong scent, like pond water.
Can we pause there for a second? So we've heard knocking and banging and that kind of stuff. We've heard noises in our houses, so that's a connection for us right away. And PJ had mentioned before he wants a movie where you have that feeling that you're always being watched or you're never alone. Did you guys have that too in your house, like before you did the Sage?
Not all the time, but there had been times where
Yeah.
I have felt like I'd been watched or something was there.
Or laying beside you in bed.
Yeah, that was a little... That was literally an invasion of personal space.
Personal bubble.
There's a little more in the
I
feeling.
know. Yeah.
Is anyone else hearing Barry White right now?
Interesting. In our last podcast, Barry was mentioned a couple times. So that was it for Danger and Dice. But anyway, I feel like that was the same thing for us. Like, we were never alone. Like, we knew that we weren't alone. So I find that interesting. But we never had any weird smells as far as I know. Did you guys have any smells in your house?
No, I will tell you though, I don't know if this is particularly a tangent, but do you remember we were in Gettysburg? We were at
Yes.
you want to tell the story?
No, you're...
We were at the wheat field, and Laura had her old digital camera, and all of a sudden we just smelled like fire, like oil, like an amalgam of
fire.
oil.
Yes.
Yeah, oily fire, and that's all that we could smell.
And I just said to Ray,
permeated the
and I was like,
air.
that's gunpowder.
and it was just us.
Yeah,
there.
and Ray had never, still, I don't think has ever fired a gun, right? I mean, we
No.
did when we were kids. Like, my uncle had, like, a little handgun that we would target shoot with, you know.
It was a little 22, yeah.
Yeah. But in this property, like, nobody was there.
We
so,
still
like,
fire guns up there, but
but so, like,
we
I
believe in our amendments.
But yeah, I mean, like, I knew what, like, essentially, like, the smell of, like, a fired gun smelled like, but this was so much stronger. And it was all around us, and there was another couple there a few minutes as we arrived. We saw them leave. We saw them get in their car and leave, and then we smelled it.
And I'm pretty sure it wasn't them.
Oh yeah,
you know.
no, I mean we would have heard it.
You would have heard guns going off, so.
Yeah, and
What if it was a silent one?
no, even then you hear like some noise with a silencer, even, but it definitely and it was so thick.
He was making a joke about a silencer.
Oh.
Laura.
Oh, come on. Sibling humor, apparently.
But,
Thank you.
if you think about that 1860s, you really had like it was a smoke that kind
Yes.
of covered the entire field.
And it almost seemed like that it was like this wave of air coming over you, that you just like were encompassed in it. And
But Laura was taking pictures, and wouldn't you know, like one of the pictures that she took, and we are not the only ones that saw this image, right? Well, it's a picture. All but certain, we see a tent.
yeah, we can link
picture's
this on
amazing.
the
Yes.
too.
that picture.
Yeah.
And not only a tent, like you could even make out like rope and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is
all the tent up.
spectacular.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
love
mean,
that.
now, granted,
So
this was how many
cool.
years ago, so the picture quality, I mean, of course, it's like a Bigfoot picture. The picture
Oh,
quality
yes.
isn't great, so we zoom in, but it does seem true.
And it obviously doesn't fit.
Right.
there.
Because it's the wheat field that's empty.
Yeah.
Well, first off, the one thing that it was daytime. Like we would have seen
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
a tent. Like
There were no other cars parked there. We would have seen people. We would have seen a tent. Like we would, like this was not like the dead of night. This was dusk. Sure, it was heading toward evening, but it wasn't dark. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry.
So,
We
but
No,
are
we're-
I
very
wanted to pause
talkative.
there because that connection right away, and what we experienced in our houses over a couple of years, he experiences in a week. So I really do feel for this guy. I think he learns his lesson. Don't pick up things. But you can continue now, PJ. But I just want to kind of point that out that that is something that you'll feel and notice when you have a presence in your house.
He doesn't believe any of this stuff, so he just ignored it until a few days ago when the statue moved from his desk into his living room. He says that every night since Thursday, it's moved into a different room than where he left it. He thought it was his dog moving it around because it smelled funny, but his dog won't go anywhere near it. He says that she's actually peed in the house 3 nights in a row, and she's never, ever done that.
And Ray, you had that happen. We had with Rose, we had that too.
Last night, someone knocked on his door at 3 in the morning, but when he went out to open it, no one was there. His motion lights weren't on, and there weren't any cars in his driveway. He said that he opened up the door to look outside, and that's when he knew he made a big mistake. Like he just felt like he shouldn't have opened this door. That's why I made this post in the first place.
I find that interesting. So, what do you think? Do you think he let it in because it already was in?
It's like vampire lore, isn't it?
Yeah,
But he didn't say come in.
No.
You have to invite them in.
But is opening a door just being like,
I know,
enough?
is it just
I don't know.
implied or something? Is what
yeah,
you're
like
trying to
you've
say?
literally
saying.
opened the door and
Acknowledging its presence,
Oh,
too.
I guess that. Yeah, it's
True,
true.
true, true.
You know, that's a big part of paranormal.
at the same time, that's a pretty big loophole, supernatural. Like, come on.
But I think it's interesting that he felt that he knew he made the wrong choice.
Yeah.
And again, you have to follow your gut with some of these things, because it
That's
is
true.
supernatural.
That's true. I mean, like,
So
I'm
I
a
find
big...
that, I just find that interesting.
I mean, I listen to the podcast Crime Junkie, so their slogan is "Be weird, be rude, stay alive." So I'm like, that applies to supernatural things too. Be weird, be rude.
Yep.
It's okay.
Yep.
Slam that door in their face.
Well, I mean, yeah. And to that point, when I saw the statue, if I were to have seen the statue, I'd be like, I'm not giving you a ride.
Sorry, stray
Yeah.
crone statue.
And when the statue moves from room to room, the first time that happens, statue's gone.
Out.
Yes.
Anyway, go ahead.
At that point, I didn't have any reason not to believe him because it had gone way beyond a joke, and he actually sounded really freaking scared on the phone. He kept telling me that he was going to burn the statue because he knows that something followed him home. Anyway, he stayed up all night and then decided that to go to the movies to take his mind off it. When he got home, he said it felt like everything was fine, and he decided to finally go to bed. This is where it gets super screwed up. He says that when he woke up, which wasn't until 10 p.m., it was because his dog was barking like crazy. He said the pond water smell was stronger than ever, and when he went out into this hallway, he saw all these muddy footprints everywhere. Not like shoe prints, but barefoot. All of his doors and windows were locked. After someone knocked on his door, he freaked out and made sure that everything was locked up. So there's no freaking way that anyone could have gotten inside. Sitting in the living room was the freaking statue, which had moved again. And he says that when he started to go near it, he heard someone breathing, like his grandpa with tracheotomy.
Oh, Lola, go ahead. Sorry, Lola, take it away. Oh, now you're not going to make noises? Really?
Now
Okay.
you're being quiet.
There we go. There it is. Thank you, Lola.
He pieced the F out, and now he and his dog are sleeping in my guest room tonight. I've never seen him this scared, and he even started crying. I have no freaking idea what to do. I believe him because he has no reason to lie about this. Because it's gone way too far to be a joke now. I know that everyone says not to burn it or whatever, so what do we do? He wants me to go to his house to get the statue tomorrow, but I'm too freaking freaked out to take it back to where we found it. Because I don't want to see whoever put it there.
That's logical. I like that. I don't want to go there. Thank you very much. I like that one of them actually has like intelligence with this.
Well, and this is the guy who was initially like, don't take that.
Yeah.
Leave it the hell here.
And now you know why you shouldn't have done that. Yeah.
This is like the ultimate I told you so. Just saying.
Yes. But I'm glad that he took his dog. And I think it's you trust your dog's instincts too, because Ray, you know, when you had the unwanted bed visitor, you know, you had Tinkerbell who peed everywhere.
And it was very validating because, like, it happened after the situation, you know, in the bedroom.
Right.
Yeah,
like you
and
have this figure, and then later on, or the next, actually it was the next night.
It was the next
right?
night, yeah.
Yeah.
And she was wigged out about it.
But I like the connection then of, you know, the dog peeing, because the dog is so important then for the next part of his post, because they do go back, right? But, you know, for us, Rosie was a puppy.
I have something to say.
Well, Rosie peed all over the hallway with the sage. So I found that very vindicating too, right?
Yeah.
So you have the peeing of Tinkerbell, peeing of Rosie. We have the breathing of Lola. What did you want to add in?
I want to add that, okay, if you think your house is haunted, you've got this energy, you've got this demonic thing, like you've got a ghost, you've got whatever. And this guy even says in some of the articles I've read, like, to escape it, he would go out to the movies. He'd go out with his friends. He'd leave the house. I'm like, well, what about your freaking dog, dude? That dog's trapped in the house. It's this thing that's terrifying it. So I'm just going to say, as somebody who loves her dog, obsessed with her dog, take your dog with you. If you don't want to be there, your dog doesn't want to be there. That's all I'm saying.
Listen, when we had that stuff going down, I took Rosie to the farm.
Yes.
I left the cats here.
Yeah, I know. Well, cats are different, though. They can handle it.
They enjoy demons. They are demons.
They can handle that shit. But ultimately, yeah. But the dogs, they're so innocent. Take them to the grandparents' house. Get them out of here. Yes.
They're your best friend.
For sure. That's all I had to say.
You want to add something? So.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Do you at least agree with the sentiment, I assume?
Yes.
Did
I
you
mean,
take
take the cats if you can.
Did you
Yeah,
bring
true.
Tinkerbell to the farm with you?
Yes, he
See?
did. Yep.
Good,
Yep,
Ray.
Took the dog.
That's right. But then they do go back, and so I find this next part, before they send off this creepy thing to people who like know about demonic presences, he posts this then to Reddit again, so I'll read this section because I like it. He says, "Thanks for the advice. Today we went back to my friend's house to get the statue and return it. When we got there, I saw the muddy footprints he was talking about, and the whole place smelled like a dog that had rolled around in dirt. His dog wouldn't even come into the house. He went to show me where the statue was when he left last night, but it was gone. When we found it, it was in his hallway, and there was a big crack in the wall like it had been thrown there. He swears that he never touched the thing and left it in his living room. We did what you said and explained that we were sorry about taking it and that we wanted to give it back to the cave and ask it what we should do. I don't know if it was the feeling you were talking about, but we both just felt like we should never go back to that cave again. He said he felt like we needed to send it to you." So he's talking about the museum people there. "When we were standing in the hallway talking to this thing, his dog started barking like crazy outside, and when we went to see what was going on, we both thought we saw a woman standing in the dark corner of his living room. She was totally naked, really old, and dripping water, and her eyes sort of glowed in the dark. She was hunched over near his shelves. We both freaked the F out and ran outside, and this was in the middle of the day. Whoever it was wasn't there when we went back in. We grabbed the statue and apologized again, wrapped it in a pillowcase, and put it in a box. He's just going to send it to you." And you guys have seen things in your house. You'll be like, for me in the basement, like seeing that thing right along here, walking along the walls, I understand that creepy moment. You're kind of like, am I actually seeing this or am I not? Like, just kind of frozen there. But I unfortunately didn't have the moment of, having a dog bark to forewarn me that something was in the corner, of the basement. Mm-hmm. Did you guys see any shadows in your house?
No.
Apart from that.
I mean, I think I got more than a shadow, I would say.
Yeah, you got some phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you had a full-fledged
Well, I was more
person.
talking about somebody in my bed.
Oh, I know. We got phone calls, too, as I was saying, yeah.
Yeah.
That was unexpected.
I never saw anything, but I heard so much. I mean, for me, the thing that stands out so much as in that one episode when I talk about the knocking when I was in the shower, like that to me was like one time where, like, to this day, like, I still get goosebumps thinking about it because it was so obvious and so crazy. But no one except me knows that it happened, and whatever it was that was with me.
And they have to believe you,
right.
that blind
you either
belief.
believe or you don't. Yeah. But I mean, like, I have no reason to make that up. Like, it doesn't benefit me. I don't feel comfortable saying that.
The tea situation was... In hindsight, I should have been a lot more creeped out than I was.
We
at
were
the
such
time.
idiots.
At the time, I was
Are you
just like,
kidding?
Whatever.
At some point, I listened to our podcast because I was like listening to it, just getting prepared for today, and I was like, I was really stupid, but I think after a while, you just get so annoyed by it that, like, for me, it starts taking my stuff, and I'm like, seriously, can I just have it back?
Yes, it just becomes normal, which is a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
But it does become like this. Oh, well, whatever, must have taken it and just ask for it back, and then they give it back. And that is a very, like, that sounds like a crazy person thing to say. Yeah. It really does.
And that shouldn't be normal.
It's just not normal. It's not a normal thing, but that is the reality, is that it becomes it becomes so everyday.
Yeah.
That's not weird.
Sidebar here, it would have been nice to still have something in the house finding things for us yesterday when PJ couldn't find some paperwork and I wasn't sure if it made its way into the trash. And we had that Halloween party. So there I was, like a good dutiful wife, going through 4 bags of trash, looking for a paper. And I'm like, after we're done, I'm getting the longest, hottest shower. Because this is disgusting. Because it's been days since the Halloween party. And PJ had put it away in our important papers drawer.
Where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So safe that even you couldn't find it.
Yeah.
I didn't look there because he had looked there. Should look there. Or I could be like, can I please have it back? Sometimes you're kind of like, maybe no. Still don't want it here. We're good. We're in the basement, right? So this is great.
Mm-hmm.
But to go back to this Reddit, like this is where I had read earlier. He said, to answer your questions, I didn't see any jewelry or pictures or anything by the statue, but there were a lot of leaves covering everything. There was some broken glass in a cup near the fire. My friend says he thinks there might have been some hair on it, but he brushed it off without thinking about it. We don't remember any weird symbols or anything in the cave. There were a lot of twigs piled around the foot of the statue, but that's it. Everyone has always talked about how people go into these parts of the woods to worship the devil and do ceremonies and stuff, and even when my parents were kids. The woods not far from where we were are even called blank, it's omitted, because of it.
Redacted.
Redacted, yeah. Well, he used the word omitted here, but yes, redacted. I told him to leave the statue there because it was probably for some weird ceremony, but he never believed in ghosts or the devil or anything. And I think that's kind of an important comment right here too, is, Ray and I mentioned we didn't believe in ghosts, right? But we were never like stupid enough to be like, you know what? I don't believe enough that I'm going to grab a statue and take it home. Because I think we're Catholic, and so we know that there's something beyond the grave. Mm-hmm. So I would never say I'm an atheist,
But we're Catholic and we take it home.
Yep.
Well, your faith is greater than mine. I mean, like,
we're just greater idiots.
We're just idiots. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I also think it's interesting how, like, these guys, obviously by his posts, like, don't know a lot about paranormal stuff, but they keep bringing up pretty normal tropes in hauntings, like stuff happening at 3 a.m.
Yes.
Knockings, weird smells.
For anyone who doesn't know, 3 a.m., not midnight, 3 a.m. is actually the witching hour.
The witching hour, yeah.
Yes.
I've heard as much.
But it's like most people think it's midnight, but it's 3 a.m. Like,
Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil from Savannah, Georgia. The hour before midnight is for the good magic. Hour after midnight is for the bad magic.
It's been a while since I've seen that one.
To quote The Conjuring and the Warrens, who probably said it too, since it's based on one of their stories, is because it's the inverse of 3 p.m., the miracle hour, when Jesus died.
Well, that, and again, logically, the exorcist priest said, you really couldn't do your black magic at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because people are going to say, no, don't do that. You're killing animals and hopefully not, but possibly babies.
And we're going to judge you.
Yeah.
And after we judge you, we'll hang you.
Yeah. Or we'll do the hanging first, then judge you.
For the record, y'all said judging was bad a little while ago. When you were talking about me, apparently judging is kind of good.
If they're killing babies, that's a different...
I'm judging the people
He
killing
forced
babies.
me to watch The Witch, which, by the way, messed up movie.
Isn't
and now
it?
I'm now thinking about babies being killed. I'm like, I love you, Alex, even though you're a pain in the butt.
But that's an actual... I was... side note. I was reading some interviews and listening to some interviews with the director, and he's like, they literally believe that, babies would be stolen and ground up to make unguents and stuff by witches, and those are real things that they believed.
I just read today on the internet, so you know it's true. But I actually do think that this is true. But they talked about how, in the 1830s, these people in Egypt would dig up these mummies, and they would sell mummies. There's street vendors, and there's pictures of them with half dozen mummies around them, right? And they would either sell the mummies for mummy unwrapping parties, which is super creepy, and Victorian era people would just do that. And then other mummies they would literally ground up into powders that people would ingest for different purposes. And it's the things that we think of, it's it's pretty freaking... we're talking about a statue in the Catskills.
Taking a dead body home. Although we're Catholic and we keep dead bodies on display.
Is that
they're
technically
incorrupt.
cannibalism? If
they're
grounded,
2,000 years old,
I mean, if you're and you've literally pulverized them,
and they're pulverized, they're dust.
And put
It
into
still
a potion
counts
or
as-
something.
I know.
Yeah,
I mean, is
that's an
Say that
interesting.
again.
It still counts as cannibalism.
I mean, yeah. I would figure as
I mean,
much.
in my book it does.
I mean, yeah.
It's not fresh like Jeff
yeah,
Dahmer
it's
would like,
dehydrated cannibalism, but I know.
Dust to
NASA
dust.
would approve. It's dehydrated. Oh, boy. Anyway, so he finishes up by saying, right now, the statue is sitting in the trunk of my car at his house. Give me your address and we'll send it to you tomorrow. If I knew it was going to be this bad, I would never have let him take it out of that cave. Thanks for not calling us idiots and telling us how stupid we are like the rest of the thread.
Whoops.
I didn't do that at all.
This is the whole reason I used the throwaway to begin with. But so he was talking, of course, the museum curators at that point. And so that's where it changes hands. He does mail it right away to Greg and Dana. And they unwrap it. If you look at this very clear picture of this effigy that is a really not so good looking wooden carving with nails in the eyes, with the clothesline, less than a year old. He mentions that, noose around its neck.
Clothesline's pretty thick, though. That's small.
You can
statue.
have thin clothesline.
No.
Twine.
Jeez. This is not twine.
Heavy duty twine.
This is, if you go to Home Depot, you can buy this stuff now.
All right, we're gonna have to look into what the options are. This is now scientific.
I had
We
to
need
buy it
find
to
out.
make the catapult for my gifted kids, so I know they have different size ropes.
But it is
Hold
definitely
on.
more
Hold on.
modern.
Look at that picture. You see
absolutely
it?
will say
You can't
All right.
deny
It's
it.
and that's something to take into
That looks-
consideration.
it's more modern.
It looks
for
a
sure.
lot cleaner.
Yeah.
And isn't that like a commentary?
pink.
Like
It looks like
just
they cleaned
because
it up.
it's
They
cursed
didn't,
doesn't mean it's ancient, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. There are people today who try to summon things and put them in dolls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, so it
And
doesn't
maybe
have to be
this-
old. You're right.
Yeah, maybe
Well,
this
and
wouldn't.
he even
be.
mentions that. He says, Dana Matthews and I carried the box into the weird HQ office and placed it on my desk. We carefully cut the package open to reveal a hard lump wrapped in a stained pillowcase. As we slowly peeled back the cloth, rusty nails hammered into wooden eyes became visible. followed by a noose tightened around the statue's neck. Whatever purpose this piece was created for, it wasn't nice. The figure looked menacing, but there were a few things that were a bit confusing about the piece. The most obvious detail was that while the carving itself looked weathered and aged, as did the nails, the rope wrapped around its neck couldn't have been more than a year old. The carving had been obviously placed in the cave recently with the new addition of the noose, if the entire thing wasn't just a hoax to begin with. So you have that, like, you know, it looks ancient, but it's also, there's that modern connection.
It's very true. I mean, and I don't even know if I would specifically say the word ancient, because that to me, I mean, it's semantics, but that to me implies, like, you know, millennia, or, you know, at least a few centuries, where this one does look old.
Retro.
See,
Turn of the century,
it's
but
more
like
than
1900s.
retro. Yes.
Not 2000s, like, please.
I would say this is pre-1980s, people. Pre-1980s. So ancient,
you.
Okay. Semantics. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely weathered. It's very, you know, the wood is darkened. It's been through some things. But the rope clearly
she's
has
seen some
not.
things,
Yeah, I mean, and certainly we'll have the photos here on the website for you to view as well. But you can see that the rope is untarnished, it's new, it's clean, it's not rotting. You know, this wood is weathered,
Well, I
for
wonder,
sure.
you know, and this is just supposition at this point, but if this effigy has gone through the ages with the family, it's no surprise that they attached a newer noose and had the hair.
Very true.
You know, you can reuse those kinds of dolls. You just add some more stuff to it.
Very true. And that's the other thing. Like, I'm looking at this and thinking, oh my gosh, this thing has been out in the weather for at least a few years, maybe a few decades. You know, but the noose clearly has not. But that's not to say that this statue couldn't have been in somebody's house for 100 years or more.
And it could have just been a completely, well, I was just thinking a completely normal, boring statue until someone decided to drive some nails into its eyes and noose and do some rituals and all that. It could have just been a statue.
Very, very true.
You know?
Yeah.
I think what happens... Hi, Lola. What happens with Dana and Greg, though, is also interesting because they act like the Warrens. They do have this traveling museum of sorts, and they showcase all these haunted objects. And so they kept it at their house. And they put it under surveillance to see if it moved because, again, the guy mentions it moved around his house. Listen, I've had shoes move, I had watches move, I had dresses move, I had blankets move. I'm good.
And there is a video from them that shows the statue moving. It's just like millimeters, like very slightly, but
they used to have it on a 24/7 live stream.
Yeah,
they have a video too of it.
I checked in
nail
on it a couple
falling.
times.
Yeah.
I watched.
There's a link on that other article that I opened from them of the actual nail falling. Like they had one leaning against the statue to see if it would move, and the nail fell. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. No, you could debunk that though.
Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into like a whole debunking.
I want to
section.
do it right now. Okay.
Do we want to just talk some debunking stuff?
Sure, because I mentioned it.
Okay.
But like if you have the
I hate falling out of bed.
You've been in this house too long. Please don't become him. One is enough. One is enough.
I couldn't help myself.
I don't want to divorce you too.
It was too easy.
I
was
keep
weak.
You.
I'm sorry, I was weak.
Anyway, so if you have that, you know, this effigy on a table and you have a nail leaning against it, you have a very strong magnet under the table and, like, you know, wiggle it along the table and then the nail's going to wiggle. You even, like, you know, wiggle the table a little bit and it's going to fall. So I feel like you could debunk that pretty easily. You could probably debunk the effigy moving, too, by wiggling the table a little bit. If it's just by millimeters or whatever, for crying out loud.
And realistically, like one person said as a naysayer, there's like this museum could have made it, and they could have had one of their friends make a throwaway post and be like, "Oh, we found this creepy statue," and you know, like, and the whole thing's a hoax, which explains like the freshness of the noose. You know, like they could have just bought this statue from eBay or from some antique shop or something, thrown some twine on it or a clothesline and, you know, just had someone make up this thing. Because the nails are obviously, they look newer. Like, that's a nice, those are nice circular headed nails and everything. Like, they're newer nails.
During my, like, early days of, like, not really believing in ghosts and, like, you know, they go to heaven or hell, like, you know, my whole Ray thing, like, we didn't believe in this kind of stuff, I would probably think that. But since learning about things like the Dybbuk box, I'm a little more open to the idea that people do voodoo and hoodoo and stuff like it. So I foresee this, and the just the discussion of what these guys have gone through. Like I just I feel like in the core of my being that they saw some stuff.
I believe it too deep down, but there's a part of me that's like,
Why
doesn't anyone know what this thing is? Why doesn't anyone know why there are nails in its eyes?
Some of it's clearly modern.
Maybe some people do, but they're just keeping quiet about it because they don't want to implicate themselves. I mean,
and they don't want to like offer
really
up their
super
secrets. Yeah. And I teach 8th graders. They can do some stupid stuff. You know, I hear stories. I'm like, oh, Miss Hayden, I used a Ouija board and this stuff happened. Why would you do that? Because it seemed like fun. They could have like researched like this could have been like kids dabbling, you know, in the woods because we're gonna be witches now, you know, and
It's all online.
Yeah, they invited something terrible in. But they may have like crossed 2 different like or 3 different like witchcrafts or like, you know, belief systems.
Yep, what we're trying to
Kids are stupid. Got it. Okay, moving on.
I can absolutely see, I you know, not so different from you, Shannon, like this whole idea of satanic panic and like kids are just playing around. They make this creepy statue and they, you know, they're out in the woods, they're just doing what kids do. I mean, my gosh, BJ, like how many times when you and I were kids were we out like crayfishing? Those poor crayfish. I swear, we must have captured the same 100 crayfish every week for like, I don't even know how long, for 2 years or whatever. Yeah, the same group. I remember like more than once being like, oh, this guy's missing his left pincer. I wonder if it's the same one as last week. Bloop, going in my bucket. You know, and then we would pour them out again. The poor guys.
There's probably crayfish that they're going, smoking around. First time? Yeah, first time. You're like missing their arms and legs.
I know. I mean, but my point is that like as kids, like I wasn't really thinking so much about the crayfish experience. You know what I mean? Like, we were just having fun and we weren't hurt. We certainly were trying not to hurt them. We didn't even cook them or any of that. But
well, I think you're very self-centered.
We did once.
We did cook them.
Was it any good?
No. They tasted terrible.
It's bad.
Even
Daisy wouldn't eat it. Daisy would not eat it.
Yeah, the dog would not eat the crayfish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
She loved the live ones, though.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I mean, she would chase them.
Yeah, and she would like pick them up. And
well, even the dead one, I remember she was like flipping it around, but
so why won't you play with me?
Yeah. Yeah. There was one batch that didn't have the happy ending that the rest did of the being continually caught. Lucky them.
It was an experience.
It was.
There's also been dead crayfish in my house. Okay, got it. Good. I don't know.
That's what's haunting me.
I figured it out. Ching, 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 ching.
But my point is that as kids, you're not thinking about any kind of reality.
Well, you're very self-centered because your brain isn't developed enough. Like that's what I talk about my 8th graders. Like the boys, you make stupid decisions because your amygdala it has more say for your entire nervous system than your prefrontal cortex, which is very underdeveloped. Unfortunately for boys, like it takes some of them to like 25 years old for them to completely grow their prefrontal cortex. So they kind of have an excuse when you say, "Why'd you do that?" I don't know. They really don't know.
They really are idiots. Yeah. What can you say?
Which frustrates me because, like, I always freaking knew when I was a kid. I call complete BS on the people who say they don't know.
Okay, PJ, you had me as a mentor. Come on.
Yeah. You're the youngest of, like...
That's why I have the issues I have today.
Off track. Moving on.
But so I could see them being very self-centered and thinking about themselves, not really worried about the other side, like rather letting demons in. But
it's the experience. They're just having fun. They don't think anything of it. Yeah.
Like
it's not a big
with
deal.
A Ouija board in my master bedroom.
Right. Well, it's the same mentality of, oh, I just found this creepy statue. I'm going to take it home. Like, I mean, it's like that same kind of like, why wouldn't I mentality. And that's like, I mean, I'm impulsive. I can be that. Like, I get it. I'm not even judging that. Like, I get that. But yeah.
At first, I would like not believe them, but then you have Greg and his wife Dana who go through some stuff, and I just find like the connections between the two stories very interesting. So you have the stuff there. Do you want to go over some of the things that happened to Dana and Greg?
All right, so Greg says, because he posted a follow-up thing on Reddit, and he said, later that evening, while sitting in the living room watching a movie, Dana and I were startled by a commotion in the office. Thinking it was our two cats, I volunteered to break up the fight, only to realize I was walking into the office that the door... Upon walking into the office, that the door had been closed at the entire time. Nothing seemed out of place, and the cats were nowhere to be found. In fact, our feline familiars were in another room entirely, cowering beneath the bed, afraid to leave.
Sounds like my Halloween party. Cats? Oh, darn it.
I walked back into the office in an attempt to look for the source of the noises, but everything seemed in order until I almost stepped on Jesus.
Words
As one does.
Lying on the floor was a plastic figurine of Christ, normally found nailed to a crucifix. As I turned him over in my hands, I realized he was missing an arm. On the complete opposite side of the room, swinging silently on a cross, hung in the corner, was Jesus's missing appendage. Something had not only managed to pull Christ from the crucifix without removing it from the wall, it had thrown the figure across the room. I've still never been able to find the nails from Jesus' hands and feet.
And I find that interesting because we had that similar situation with our house, like with that Halloween party, a couple of years ago. When you open up that bedroom, you see the angels all just broken apart and desecrated. And you see a nail just like in one of the angel's hands, and you see her face marked up. And so I just found that as a really interesting connection. But whatever was in this house never destroyed any crucifixes. So almost like it deferred to God, and demons, especially like Satan, they defer to God because, Satan himself is the angel of light still, So I find that interesting. And if this is some kind of like demonic presence from a different religion, like that has been posited, they wouldn't identify Christ as their savior. So of course they would destroy it, and ripping off its arm and the nails missing. I just find that very interesting.
Well, there's some that just actively attack crucifixes too.
Well, you'll see them upside down and stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen that, but never happened in our house.
We had
more
angel
aggressive.
statues broken.
Well, angel statues, but never like the
Jesus,
crucifixes
yeah.
that I have hung up. Yeah.
Sure.
And maybe it's just like a different level of
Yeah.
power.
Ours
or-
are blessed as well. Like maybe his were
True.
just pieces of plastic in the
Oh, they're
shape
just-
of Jesus.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
There could be
Plastic
the
that
Dollar
Jesus.
Tree or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
our Jesus was
Like
our-
really, unless it's blessed, it's just plastic or wood or whatever
That's
it's made
true.
out of.
True.
So whether or not this new artifact was to blame, let's go back a bit. Sitting directly below the now desecrated cross was the Crone. Whether or not the new artifact was to blame, Dana and I wasted no time setting up a 24-hour surveillance on the object. We placed a motion-activated camera in the corner of the office, facing directly at the direction of the desecrated where the desecrated crucifix hung, covering a selection of the most active artifacts in our collection. If something was causing anomalous movement, we were going to capture it. For nearly 2 months, the motion-activated camera sat in the room, but when we checked the SD card each morning, there was no evidence of paranormal activity. Sure, there were occasional bumps in the night, but when you store hundreds of haunted, cursed, and supernaturally influenced objects in your home, you come to expect it. Still, there was nothing to point toward the Crone being to blame for any of it. Let's say that this also started January of 2016, because now his next sentence says, then on March 2nd, between the hours of 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., the camera triggered 3 times. Initial analysis showed a few strange anomalies floating in and out of frame, one of which even appeared to have its own light source. But it wasn't until we stitched the frames together that we discovered something really eerie. The Crone had moved, ever so slightly, on its own. Things only got stranger from there. Several weeks later, with no further anomalous activity captured, Dana called me into the living room and asked me why I'd stood on the furniture after a shower, pointing to the wet footprints that appeared to stand on the back of our couch. Only I'd not taken a shower for hours. And they have a picture of the wet footprint on the couch.
I love how she just looks angry. And I do want to point out, like you mentioned March 2016, that would have been Easter. I just looked it up to make sure that I wasn't wrong. But 3 different times you have that issue, right? They mentioned 3 different times they moved or whatever. They went off 3 different times. Mm-hmm. You have the 3 important holy days Easter time period. Just saying. I find that that connection interesting. Continue on, though.
For days, the earthy scent of pond water lingered in the house, with an intense feeling of dread and paranoia following it. There was an undeniable sense that something was with us, just waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. One evening, after enduring the overbearing weight of hidden presence and stink of algae for two weeks, we'd had enough. We were in the middle of a new episode of Paranormal Lockdown when the smell of pond water became so great we couldn't stand it. Haunted objects like misbehaving children tend to respond to and retaliate to the attention given to them during tantrums, but our usual routine of ignoring the bad behavior wasn't working. We were past due for a sit-down discussion with the Crone. No one interrupts our paranormal television, not even terrifying entities. I stormed into the office, grabbed the carving, and marched back in the living room, slamming it down on the coffee table. I sat back down on the couch and began addressing the entity directly, something that should never be done lightly, and I explained that we were happy to give the Crone a home, but as this was our house, we had rules. It's a speech I'd given most of the objects in the museum at one time or another, and one that tends to work. If we left you with the hikers, I said, you would have found your way into a fire pit or a garbage can. If you found your way to a priest, you'd be bound and buried, or worst, locked in a dusty shelf for years. We're happy to let you live here, but only if you respect the situation you've got the situation. If you've got unfinished business, we'll help you put it to bed. But if you don't treat us respectfully, you're going in the box. In the box is a phrase we've reserved for artifacts that don't play nice, have nasty side effects, or are just plain malevolent. These objects, unlike the rest in the collection, have their own dedicated lockboxes. Solitary confinement, if you will. Usually the threat of a lockup is enough to pacify a situation. Not this time. As soon as I uttered the magic words, Dana sprang up from the couch, drawing my attention to the sound of rushing water from the other side of the house. We dealt with a broken pipe in the recent past, and the sound of water spilling into our laundry room was a panic-inducing noise. We rushed toward the sound, only for it to cease as we entered the hall. There was no water, but behind us, back in the living room, we could hear the dull thud of something hitting the floor. The Crone had managed to roll off the coffee table and under the television stand. As I knelt down and reached under the stand to grab the carving, Dana yelled out and rushed to my side. When I turned to look at her, she was propping up the television with both hands. The screen had nearly fallen directly onto my head. As we shared a brief look of fear and agreement, 3 loud knocks reverberated from the living room wall, rattling picture frames and flickering the light bulb from a single lamp providing our room with light. In the box it is, I muttered.
I love it. You're going to try and kill me. And so now they do take it on display once, but I believe it's like now just like hidden away forever because it's caused car accidents and according to their
when
lore.
It was on display, it was display only, no touch for a while, but even then people were having adverse reactions. And then I saw on Twitter, we were talking about this right before the episode, that I guess Greg Newkirk had posted that the Crone was in quotes home now, and people were debating, does that mean home in the cave or home in the, box or, their collection or whatever. And I think we presume the box or collection where it's more
I can't
safely
putting
stowed
it back in the cave because someone else is going to go and get it,
Yeah. So I think that it's in storage.
Box.
Solitary confinement. You can't play nice with others.
And then you're not supposed to, feel sadness towards, demonic presences. But what if this is just, some old, lady, ghost, who's
That's
been,
what they want you to
forced to
think.
work for years? Yeah, I know. And you're just kind of she's like, seriously, I just want to go to bed.
Well, then she should. That's the thing.
Can you imagine, this is 2016, so, for 6 years now, it's just been in a box,
And if you think about the Dybbuk box, same thing. That's another.
That guy won't even say where it is.
We need to do that as our next discussion. I
That'd
love
be
that
fun.
story.
Buy it on eBay.
Again, someone offering to... But people were offering to buy this thing. It's okay, have you not learned about the Dybbuk box from eBay? Darn
People don't.
kids.
People don't.
Yeah, but, at some point, that Dybbuk box is going to come out again, And that that hag has not
But I
gone
do
away.
think that there are some people who are so oblivious or whatever. Like, I don't know what it is, but like the house in Amityville Horror, for example, like people live there now.
Well,
It was never haunted. That's actually been debunked.
Yeah.
Well, okay. But I
Well,
think
the
there
original
are other...
the original murders though were still weird.
Right.
Horrifying.
The-
Right.
because there's no way to explain that.
Right.
Wasn't that in the 70s, though?
Yeah.
The murder? Because they're saying that leaded fuel is the reason we had so many serial killers in that time period.
Really?
That's a
Do you know
whole-
that that's why...
Because cars burning leaded fuel would release fumes into the air and stuff like that, and lead everywhere.
So I had a boss, and he worked in that area back in the day, and like leaded, like in not in leaded fuel, but like after the fact, like how it affected the environment. And he actually told me that American pandas were dying like crazy because they were eating like this bamboo. And it turns out that bamboo is like a magnet
It
for
does.
lead.
It sucks up
and so
everything.
we can grow bamboo in America, but it's sucking up all this lead because back in the day, like you're saying, in the 70s, lead was unleaded fuel was spewing everywhere. So we cannot actually grow edible bamboo in the U.S. because of what we did in the 70s.
Yeah.
So we have to import edible bamboo to feed our pandas and zoos and things like that. It's,
Think
it's
about
just an
it.
interesting little thing.
In rural areas,
Fun
there
fact.
was less, smog and whatnot. We didn't have many serial killers. We have some that were in
Interesting.
Pennsylvania, but nothing in rural PA.
Yes. So now the social experiment is watching the Middle East, and I think mostly Saudi Arabia because they don't have lead laws, I believe. One of the
Just
one
to
of the
see if there's a correlation.
yeah, to see if the violence drops now that they're moving away from leaded gasoline.
Interesting. Oh, I will be paying attention to that. That's
Yeah.
There you go.
fascinating.
There.
See, that's like
That's
we're
something
talking
you
about
know now.
supernatural horror, and this is like real horror.
Look at Nero is an example of
Yeah.
that. So.
Crazy. But no, this is absolutely, I mean, in either instance, this is sort of an example of what people are doing. You know what I mean? Like somebody carved this thing, and clearly with some kind of malintent. Absolutely. And whether that malintent is sort of been because of a collective mindset amplified, or it really truly is evil incarnate, we may never know. But the fact is, whether we all believe in the evil and therefore it's real, or somebody allowed the evil to come through via this statue and it's now real. But either way, I feel like it exists in the world.
Well, and that's a discussion, even if this were like a hoax initially, you are asking for something to come through. You're creating some kind of a portal. And that's something that the Exorcist had kind of discussed, is like whether you're upstairs playing on a Ouija board for fun in your parents' bedroom, Laura.
Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
Or if you are like around the well in the 1700s doing some kind of nasty witchcraft, you are opening a portal either knowingly or unknowingly and allowing something to come through.
Throwing a pig's head into the well is just getting rid of it.
Someone has to drink that water, Laura. If we're gonna go with that metaphor, yeah. I gotta drink that water. I gotta live here, man.
Not
Thanks.
300 years later.
Stupid pigs. I just like bacon. That's what I get for liking bacon. The Jews had it right. No bacon.
No bacon. No pig's heads. Not in wells. Not ever. Just don't do it.
So, Ray, yay or nay, is this thing legit or no? What do you think?
Oh,
We're gonna go around the table.
Oh, dang. I'm glad you went first.
Yeah,
I
we're
can
going
think about
first.
it.
Ray's on the spot.
you know what? I think it is legit. It's like one of those things where I think it was more powerful with the hiker, and then like when it
Someone who didn't know
graduated.
how to use it, or what to do with it.
or somebody who actually was the instigator in the situation. I really do think there was something. I just feel like there was something there with everything that's happened to him.
That's true. She's mad because she left her cave because of him. Take it out.
I think so, and I think she's a little peeved.
She was supposed to be busy.
and it
too.
manifested in a naked woman.
That's true.
And what footprints. I do wonder about the whole situation of the museum. I think it's very interesting that there are so many artifacts, there. And this is the thing that kind of seems to be sticking, You know, like
Well, I guess there's a couple though. They said like they have a couple in solitary confinement in their boxes, but when it tries to kill you with a TV, you know, it's kind of important.
I know.
So Ray says yes, it's real. Laura, now you're on the spot.
I am honestly torn because it seems like whatever the intent was, they carved it, they stuck it in this remote cave by all accounts. Like these people were off the path. This was not on a trail. This was not something they could have or should have found. So when I take that into consideration, on one hand, it's like maybe it was like calling to them in some way and drawing them in. But on the other hand, it's like, or maybe it's because we all believe in it. That's what gives it the power. It's like the collective of our energy that's actually funneling power toward the thing.
We're reading into coincidence too.
Perhaps. And I'm really torn on it. I could literally be kind of convinced either way. I'm not married to yay or nay.
Moderate, taking the easy way out.
I'm sorry. I'm just
Fine.
not sure.
I'll be a politician. That one.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, like,
Vote for me.
I know. How about it?
You know I'm right. Either way.
All right, PJ.
Oh well, Ray, you have something to say?
Well, I was just thinking though, like, the hiker dude identified as an atheist,
As opposed
too.
to a biker dude.
Yes, as opposed to that. Yes, because you know, one's on foot, one's on wheels. Distinct
I need to leave
differences.
now.
Sometimes, like, I wonder, like, if it's that much more meaningful to come, like, full circle from a place where you're like, oh, you know, I don't really, you know, have that belief, which I guess is a belief in and of itself, and then to come around and be so affected with something.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
and
oh
maybe,
no, there is an
and maybe
afterlife.
that's my own experience, too, because, you know, there are certain things that I
Ray
didn't
took all the
believe in.
things I was going to say.
I'm sorry.
No, it's cool.
Sorry.
Keep going.
I didn't know you were going to say that.
You worded it better anyway.
I don't. I lost my train of thought. No, like
Shannon can pick it up for you.
I'm picking up what you're laying down. I got you.
sometimes I think it just resonates a little more because I can identify with that. I mean, I can't identify with like taking stuff from
No,
the
me
woods,
either. Yeah.
right?
can.
But I can certainly identify with something that's happened that has changed the way you believe in certain phenomena.
Anyway, no, none of that. Now
Phenomena.
Now it's an earworm. Believe or no belief?
Yes.
Okay, why?
Because no. So because I already said it too. It's just these people who don't seem to know a lot about this stuff keep bringing up things that people who know a lot about this stuff know already. You know, the smells, the 3 a.m. things, knocking 3 times too. You know, just all these things that are so common to hauntings and stuff like that, and it's happening to these people who know nothing about hauntings.
What's happening right now?
So that right there tells me that something's going on, or it's an incredibly elaborate hoax. You know, there are a lot of like really good details that they throw into that, you know, like tell you that make you think it's real, and that could just be someone who's very well versed in, you know, paranormal experiences and things like that, and like, oh, you know, like, well, we could, you know, say we knocked 3 times, you know, and stuff like that. Like, yeah, people will recognize that, but it feels more genuine to me than that.
I believe this only because of the dog. Okay.
I trust in the dog.
I trust in the
We've
dog.
never seen the dog.
It's
their dog.
I was gonna say I want to see this dog and pet it and see if like that's legit. But I find it interesting, you know, the idea of like us not really believing Ray, right? And I feel like it wanted to make itself known because obviously, well, if you don't, you're gonna believe now, you know, like I am real and pay attention to me. And he opened the door, right? Whatever that was, him having in his gut that whatever he did was wrong. I think that's why it got worse. Whereas they brought for Dana and Greg, they brought it into the house, they put it in its own little room, and they put it under a camera. So there was no need to knock. They knew it was there. And so this thing didn't really feel a need to showcase its abilities because it knew these guys were already believers. It just took care of Jesus instead, I guess. And then tried to kill Greg. But I feel like the dog's visceral reaction, the peeing 3 nights in a row and, the barking when they get to the house, I find that just, for me, kind of vindicating because of what I've lived through and what you've lived through with the dogs being that connection.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's the most logical, my thought process. I mean, literally, when you get right down to it, it's like, why do you think it's real or not? I mean, for me, it's like, well, because I feel like I've experienced something similar, and I feel like if it can happen kind of like to me, then it can happen to somebody.
I know it sounds stupid, like, I trust the dog, but, like, when you're with a dog alone and something happens, like a dog peeing in the hallway, or you with Tinkerbell.
I didn't actually pee.
No, the dogs did. No, we didn't pee. The dogs did. But there's a connection there with your dog. You're like, okay, it's not just me, it's you too. Okay, good. It's okay. It's both of us. Let's get out of here. It's a different kind of a connection. The dog's outside barking, for crying out loud. It's like, I'm not coming in here, but y'all get out of there. Come on now. Look at that. All right. The dog is trying to protect them, which I think is pretty cool. So I say, as if it ends up being a hoax, whatever, I don't care. Good job on the hoax. But I'm a little more open to this now after 7 years of this house.
Yes.
7 years? Enough years. 8 years. No, probably closer to 10 years.
12. We moved here in 2010.
No, we lived here before that.
True.
Because I was working. 2009 we were living in here.
Yeah. So
we bought the house later, yeah. But we had it exercised. So almost a decade in this house of issues.
At least a decade, you should
At
say.
least.
Just me. I don't think about that.
Yes. And I never see me taking stuff up from the woods.
No.
No dolls, no effigies.
Random side note too, like your nephew, our nephew, going down and taking stuff from the Indian burial or the Indian wall that's in the woods out there.
The rock wall.
That bothers me. I'm like, what if you're taking stuff from like someone's grave? Like that's not okay. Like I now think about that stuff, whereas back in the day, I'm like, oh yeah.
For listeners, there's a rock wall that separates our property from a neighbor property.
Right. Very, very common in old properties, and there's we always called it the old stone wall, and there's several old stone walls that have different barriers on the property. But yeah, it's a
now I'm like, you shouldn't take that, leave that there.
I know, I always used to think of it as like an Indian burial ground. It probably isn't. It probably just was
my
like
worry is like
wall,
pet cemetery,
somebody
pet
just
cemetery.
gathered rocks and were like, oh, we're gonna make this boundary so I can tell your land from mine. Okay, but
just
maybe
in
not.
case though.
We don't know. Well, we don't know. Is what it comes down to.
So that's 3 yays and a May.
I'm not convinced. I am not convinced. To me, I think what throws me off is the statue looks kind of old, but could it be stained to look old?
Mm-hmm.
Could be. Could it just be a crude carving, a crude carving that somebody kind of made as a little prank, and they just were hanging out and being weird, and then somebody made more of it than needed to be made of. But do I believe that it has something? Yes, I will go that far. But I don't know if it was made with that intent, or if that we have imbued it with that intent. That's what I'm not sure of.
See, I feel like if it was a hoax, they wouldn't use such an obviously new rope around its neck. You'd look for older twine, or you at least stain the rope. You don't make that obvious mistake in my mind.
But to my original point, maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe it's an old flippin', statue and a new freaking
they could have found this in their parents' attic.
Maybe
That's what I was saying too. Yeah,
exactly. Making a portal, man.
And we've heard about things that are dolls and stuff. Well, we actually on Spooked, right?
Yep.
That things, newish stuff can still be possessed or haunted or whatever.
Yeah.
Why not?
The real Annabelle is just a Raggedy Ann doll.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's not some creepy looking thing. It's a Raggedy Ann doll.
Not that old.
No.
You had a horse.
I still have that horse.
There's a Furby.
Still around.
There's a Megatron.
Oh, the Furby's gone. We threw it out.
Oh, Furby's gone.
Yeah. Bye.
Horse is around.
If Furby shows back up, though, we'd know something's going on again.
Machines and stuff like that do funky things. Speakers
Well, The
that do funky
Exorcist
things.
said that he has done a lot of exorcisms on cars. of
Oh,
all
I
things.
believe that.
Mhm.
I actually believe that.
Isn't that crazy?
There's an energy. There's
Yeah.
an energy that gets imbued
Because
into
you're allowing
things.
it. Yeah, you're allowing it to happen.
And that, I think that to me is like my, like, I don't know. Do I think something like supernatural was happening? Yes. I will go that far for sure. But do I think that it was like, whatever, teenagers who like carved this with the intent of like, kind of like a voodoo doll? I'm not so sure on that. But do I think that because we all believe that it looks super creepy, it's obviously evil, now evil things are happening? Yeah, I could totally buy that part.
So I'm going to take that as a 3.9 yes out of 4.
3.75. We'll go with that.
Okay. It still rounds up to 4.
Yes.
All right. I know my math. I got this. So I think next time we should do the Dybbuk box because I mentioned it randomly.
Ooh.
Another haunted object. I think the stories
Dybbuk
that
box
are
is so
so
cool.
interesting. Yeah, so we'll do that next. I was going to stick to Pennsylvania for a bit because it's local for us, but
And there's plenty to talk
But you know what? The
about.
Catskills are out of state. I mean,
they are
That's
both
true.
close.
Yeah.
you know.
yeah, it is relatively close.
So
Northeast.
okay, we will do Dybbuk box next, and then we'll go from there. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you
Yes.
for having us.
Yeah, this is great.
And
As
thank
always.
you, everyone, for listening to
And
the
making
Wellhouse
this
Exorcism.
the most popular of our 3 podcasts.
Yes.
Ooh.
Please email us at gamesoboard@gmail.com.
And you get fake points of inspiration for starting your tag like, oh, 80, because Games O Board sounds so Irish. It was a joke. It was a joke from our Dangers and Dice. You get fake points of inspiration for starting it with some kind of Irish line. When you email us.
You know, I used to say, like, you know, that I didn't have a drop of Irish blood. And then I discovered via Ancestry.com that our father actually is 1% Irish.
Oof.
So we literally do have 1 drop of Irish blood.
Ancestry, give us money.
Yeah. Oh, and, you know, yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to do a spot for Ancestry.com right now. I'm not going to do it until, you know, we have a sponsorship.
Yeah.
If you want to
FYI.
send us a script, we'll read it.
Yes.
In cool but terrible Irish accent.
Okay. Side note, it is pretty cool, though. FYI.
So also check out our other podcast, Games Overboard, in which we review board games and talk about all the fun stories that they make, and Danger and Dice, where we play D&D and all kinds of ridiculous things happen.
Emphasis on ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
You'll laugh the whole time.
Oh yeah, and continue to listen to the Wellhouse Exorcism as we
segue.
talk more about creepy, true hauntings and determine whether or not we believe them or
And
not.
if you have your own story, email it to us, and maybe we'll have you on.
And we'll pass judgment on your story as well.
Yes.
Maybe in front of you.
We're very good at judging.
We're very good at judging. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Worst case scenario, Reddit, guys.
Oh my gosh. Have a great night.